Baird.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank our witnesses for being here today. You know, agriculture is important to me and it's important to our country. And we make a contribution from agriculture to USAID around the world, and had the opportunity to go to Florida or to Africa a couple of times. So I'm just setting the stage for my question here in a minute. Sometimes those commodities end up being in the hands of adversaries, used as, it's fungible, it's used as money instead of really ended up. So my point is this statistic from the USAID is only 12.7% of that funding actually ends up in the hands of the people we intended it for. And so that's the question. So now when you look at international organizations, the State Department contributes more than $8 billion annually to international organizations. And if we cannot audit that or make sure that it's going to the appropriate recipients, then I'm concerned about it. So my question comes down to, going forward, what do you think, with all of your experience, the actions should be from Congress in order to allow the government to have oversight mechanisms that are appropriate to assess the relevant information to ensure compliance from these different NGOs? So I want to know what we can do to make sure that those commodities or whatever we're providing through USAID is really getting to the people who need it. Because I understand the concern about PRC, but I'm not sure that we're being effective as we should be with our USAID.
If I might jump in, Congressman, I would say this is why it's so critical to resource that oversight. And, you know, the dismissal of inspectors general at multiple agencies, including USAID, I think that was a setback. But certainly we have to make absolutely sure that all of that taxpayer-funded assistance is reaching its intended recipient. I think the 12% was with respect to local partners who are, you know, the first recipient of this U.S. largesse. But I think you're absolutely right. But we have to, in this challenge funding environment, still have the manpower, the people who can ensure the money is well spent. And I think individual agencies have layers of support for that, but the 15% cut across the board in the department, it's going to be a difficult choice, I think, on the domestic side where those cuts are going to come out.
I would just say that in my experience, most recently with Syria, the USAID watched closely on diversion and who it was going to, and that's to be applauded. That is absolutely necessary. And whatever the organization is, it is important that those functions, under whatever hat, and the people who know how to do that continue to carry out those functions. In terms of aid to international organizations, as the famous case of UNRWA in Gaza in particular, that's troubling. That's a special case, and it's something for Congress, and I think the State Department to take a closer look at.
Well, sure, I agree. I think that it's you know, beholden on all of us to make sure that there's accountability and that the money's not wasted, goes to the recipients. I think there's also a deeper question, which is, can we do a better job in measuring actually the impact that we're having? I mean, we have all of these sometimes grandiose objectives about our foreign assistance, which no one's going to disagree with. But is the way we're doing aid actually achieving those goals? And what is the process of measuring that? Who's measuring it? And what in my experience in government is that we end up measuring the things we can measure because that's easier. So you measure how many, you know, young women in southern Lebanon have been trained in English, when that is supposed to be a means to an objective of transforming a society to make sure that there's, you know, 100%, not 50% of the population is employable, and that they have access to things that make them more moderately inclined and more economically competitive. We don't measure that. We measure how many girls are going through an English program, which I'm all in favor of. The point is, we lose perspective because we lose sight of the objective that we have. You know, and I can remember, I won't name the country because it'll be embarrassing. In one of my countries, I had an aid director come to me and she said, you know, it's 50 years of a US aid program in this country. we want to have a celebration. Next year, we're going to celebrate. And I said, no, we're not. I love the aid program. We're doing good stuff there. The country needs it. But we're not going to celebrate the fact that we have a forever aid program somewhere. And that's because we're not measuring the outcomes or the results in any meaningful way. So in the authorization process, you can help us do that. Wonderful.
I thank you. My time is run out, and so I yield back.
Thank you, Representative Baird. Representative Alma.